For better or for worse, it's not the sort of thing you can fake. There's no substitute, no alternative, no replacement. But without it, political parties of any and all stripes have learned again and again, perhaps some more recently than others, that without genuine grassroots enthusiasm, authentic excitement among the vast majority of your voters, electorally, you are toast. So you can understand why Democrats are starting to feel like they've got their mojo back today, the wind back in their sails, thanks to a rather unexpected issue. What NBC News calls the, quote, burning hot center of Democratic politics right now, the battle over redistricting. It started in the state of Texas, where today Texas Governor Greg Abbott is once again threatening the Democratic lawmakers who fled that state in order to deny Republicans a quorum as they endeavor to rip up Texas's congressional districts mid-decade. Abbott says once the legislature's special session ends Friday, he plans to immediately begin a new one until he can push through his new, even more Republican-friendly map, a special request from Donald Trump. One of those Democrats outside of Texas state lines right now is Representative James Tallarico. Fox News invited him on their air yesterday to talk gerrymandering, and this is how it went.
You gave the ballgame analogy. In my view, what has happened here is you've done something in certain states, and you don't like it when it's done in Republican states. And now you're saying you've done the same thing as us. You've done the same thing as us, and we are going to, by the way, if you do it, we're going to ratchet it up even more, in the words of Gavin Newsom.
My party has never gerrymandered in the middle of the decade at the request of the President of the United States, nor would we. The only way this is going to happen in blue states is if Texas executes this power grab. You mentioned Massachusetts. Right. Do you know the party of the governor that signed that map into law? He was a Republican. It was a Republican governor that signed that map into law. So I just want to be clear with our facts, and I don't want to muddy the waters. All of us, whether we're Democrats, independents, or Republicans, we should stand up to politicians who don't want to face accountability at the ballot box. That's exactly what's happening here. And I asked you, if Republican policies are popular, why do they need to redraw these maps? Why can't they just run on their policies?
I'm getting wrapped on time. I'm enjoying this conversation. I want to let it go on.
Will Cain looks like he needs a lifeline. But it isn't just Texas Democrats who are now vowing to fight fire with fire in what Democrats see as what it is, a Republican power grab. But their party allies, other Democrats, have entered the fray as well. California's Governor Gavin Newsom, for instance, has spent the better part of the week masterfully trolling Donald Trump online. It culminated in an all-caps threat written in very Trumpian style to make sure he understood it, I guess. Quote, Donald Taco Trump, as many call him, quote, missed the deadline, exclamation point. California will now draw new, more beautiful maps. They will be historic as they will end the Trump presidency. Dems take back the House. Big press conference this week with powerful Dems and Gavin Newsom, your favorite governor, that will be devastating for MAGA. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, whatever happens in California or Texas or Illinois or anywhere else, it's clear Democrats have some momentum back. They're energized, not just by the issues, but by their own voters who are all too eager to see them fight. It's where we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Managing editor of The Bulwark, MSNBC contributor Sam Stein's here. Also joining us, pollster and president of Brilliant Corners Research, MSNBC political analyst Cornell Belcher's here. And we start with Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California, ranking member of the Oversight Committee. Congressman, I like the translation feature, and I feel like, among other things, what Gavin Newsom has cracked the code on is that translation into Donald Trump's social media posting language. Quite an epic troll of him. But on the substance of this, where do you see this fight?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, people are energized, and if Texas is going to punch, California is going to punch back harder. And people are right now in a fighting mood. This has united the party. We're ready to push back. And this is the way Donald Trump has made it clear that how he wants to rig the 2026 election. A lot of us have been kind of contemplating how he's going to try to rig the 2028 election. No, it's the 2026 election is how he's going to plan on doing it. And so we support the governor's effort. He is punching back just as he should be. We are all behind this effort. And what we're going to do in California is not just match Texas seat to seat. We're going to ensure that all of our members that are in tougher seats are also in bluer seats. And so we're going to build a firewall in our state. And we're in this fight because Donald Trump wants to be in it. And the only thing that Donald Trump understands is brute force. We've got to take him for his word that he's going to try to do this across the country. And Democrats have got to go state to state and do the same thing.
Let me ask you this. I mean, mostly for better, but I guess in some instances for worse, the Democratic Party is not the Republican Party. The Republican Party doesn't ask why. The Republican Party doesn't say, oh, I've never been for this before. The Republican Party does what Donald Trump wants it to do. The Democratic Party isn't like that. Do you have unity among elected Democrats? And have you seen data that suggests this is what the majority of your voters want?
Welcome to the new Democratic Party. I mean, the reality is that we can no longer play the respectability game. We can no longer always try to be the good guys. We can no longer always try to do the right thing at the right moment and pull test everything that we do. We have tried to do the right thing. We've supported independent commissions. We've always followed the letter of the law, which we should always try to do. We have tried to always be that party that brings people in and that does it in a way that is a respect and commands, I think, a large coalition. We've been losing elections. We lost a presidential election. We don't have control of the Congress. Yeah. And it is time for us to dig in deep and to match whatever the Republicans throw on us and then some. And it doesn't mean we've got to lose our values. Our values are still about inclusion, supporting those that need help the most, bringing folks in, growing the country, supporting working class folks. That is still who we are. But the way we get to those majorities, the way we win elections has to change. And I've not heard one Democrat or voter on the ground ever tell me once, hey, can you please dial it back a little bit? Or, hey, can you being a little bit too aggressive? I am glad now that the party is finally in an aggressive posture, and we are not going to let the foot off the gas.
What is the process like? I mean, because of all the things you just nodded to, the norms and respect for institutions, in some blue states, there are steps that Democrats have to take that someone like Governor Abbott doesn't have to take in Texas. Can you just take me through what happens now in California?
Absolutely. So in California, the process is a little bit more complicated, but we're going to get it done. I mean, we're essentially, the legislature right now is developing these maps. Obviously, with Congress and the governor's in the driver's seat. These maps will go in front of the legislature. The legislature will vote to put the maps in front of voters. That election is going to happen in November, likely. And so the whole process of actually getting on the ballot will happen in the next 2 weeks. Voters will then vote on the new map in November. And then that map will be the map that folks run for in these new seats in 2026. Now, the process in other states like New York or Illinois, they're all a little bit different. But I've been encouraging governors, legislators across the country, if you are in a blue state or if we have some control over the redistricting process, the time to act is now. Do not wait for the Republicans to start rolling out their next list of states. The planning has to start immediately. If California can do it, and we're going to take it to the ballot, it's going to be very expensive and very difficult to do, but we're going to get it done. Every other state that has the ability to do so needs to do the same thing immediately.
Let me read you one more tweet from Governor Newsom, and then I want to bring my other panelists into this conversation. He added this, quote, when Speaker Little Man Johnson is standing in the unemployment line, he can thank Donald Taco J. Trump. Trump missed a simple deadline, something he has often done with his many failed businesses. Now California will fire him with new, more beautiful maps, highly anticipated historic press conference, and this is with your favorite governor. Is this a tone that you would like to see all your fellow Democrats adopt?
Look, yes. I mean, look. I think what the governor is doing here is being more aggressive, as far as people's tones or how they take on the Republicans in their state or their governors or the president is up to them. But the governor is doing exactly what we need to do and a true model in the way to take on Donald Trump. Donald Trump only understands brute force. He only understands someone actually standing up to him and pushing back aggressively. And I think the governor has captured the moment, and he's leading the country in putting these maps in front of voters. And as for the rest of the party and members of Congress and leadership and all of us that are involved, we just have to match that level of energy in our own different ways. I mean, you've had incredible guests and conversations, Nicole. You just obviously in Texas and across the country, people are pushing back, and these folks need to continue to do so, not just against Donald Trump, but Republicans in their own states.
Well, tomorrow, Donald Trump will fly to Alaska to meet with a war criminal who he has called a genius in order to avoid questions about a pedophile who raped children, while Donald Trump was calling him a terrific guy. It won't work. If Donald Trump does manage to avoid questions about Jeffrey Epstein tomorrow in Alaska, those questions will be waiting for him when he returns to Washington. Every member of Congress now is getting questions about Jeffrey Epstein. The difference between Democrats and Republicans who get questions about Jeffrey Epstein is that Democrats actually answered those questions. Here is Maryland's Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen in a town hall tonight.
Why won't they release the Epstein files? Couldn't let you leave without
So they
that.
should release the Epstein files right now. And they obviously have the power to do it. I mean, this is something, if you rewind the tape, Pam Bondi and so many others said that everyone should have access to the Epstein files. And I agree. I think this is there's enough of a public interest here, and that the victims of these terrible crimes deserve to have transparency and accountability. These are, I mean, I think people recognize just how horrible what happened to these young women and girls was. And the perpetrators should be known, and they should be held accountable. And you can release the files in a way that protects the victims but doesn't protect the perpetrators.
Donald Trump's approval rating has dropped to 38%, but that is not the worst polling number Donald Trump faces tonight, because 71% of Americans think Donald Trump knew some or a lot about the sex crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein against children before the investigations into Jeffrey Epstein even began. And a majority of Republicans think the same thing. 56% of Republicans think Donald Trump knew some or a lot about the sex crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein. 56% of Republicans. It is at this low point in Donald Trump's public support that he has chosen to try to rig congressional districts in Texas to give Republicans 5 more Republican seats in the House of Representatives so that Donald Trump can guarantee that Republicans will control the House of Representatives and he won't be impeached by the House of Representatives during this term of his presidency. There is only one state bigger than Texas, and that state has the power to crush Donald Trump's Texas plan for controlling the House of Representatives. And the governor of that state stepped up today to accept the challenge from Donald Trump and Texas Republicans.
Here's the good thing about California, folks. We're the size of 21 state populations combined. We're the 4th largest economy in the world. We're not a small, isolated state. I know they say don't mess with. Texas. Well, don't mess with the great Golden State. And so we're here with our state of mind, with the clarity of our purpose and conviction, to recognize that we need to reconcile the world we're living in. We do have agency. We're not bystanders in this world. We can shape the future, and that's what we intend to do today. Here he is once again trying to rig the system. He doesn't play by a different set of rules. He doesn't believe in the rules. And as a consequence, we need to disabuse ourselves of the way things have been done. It's not good enough to just hold hands, have a candlelight vigil, and talk about the way the world should be. We have got to recognize the cards that have been dealt. And we have got to meet fire with fire. And we've got to be held to a higher level of accountability. So that's what this is about. It's not complicated. We're doing this in reaction to a president of the United States that called a sitting governor of the state of Texas and said, find me 5 seats. We're doing it in reaction to that act. We're doing it mindful of our higher angels and better angels. We're doing it mindful that we want to model better behavior, as we've been doing for 15 years in the state of California with our Independent Redistricting Commission. But we cannot unilaterally disarm. We can't stand back and watch this democracy disappear. We can't stand back and watch this democracy disappear district by district all across this country, not just in Texas, but in Missouri, where J.D. Vance went just a week ago, in Indiana, in places like Ohio, in places like Florida. We need to stand up, not just California. Other blue states need to stand up. We need to be firm in our resolve.
And so the fight against Donald Trump and Trumpism is now engaged in a way it has never been engaged before by California and its governor. Governor Newsom reminded the country that this all started with a desperate phone call from Donald Trump to the Republican governor of Texas, asking the governor to find him 5 more House seats in Texas.
They want to rig these elections, and they want the power that gerrymandering provides, because they know what Donald Trump knows. He's going to lose the midterms. He knows de facto his presidency ends in 17 months when Speaker Jeffries is back in office. He knows it. Why else? Why else would you try to rig the system? Why else would you make the phone call? He's a failed president.
Donald Trump sent his masked ICE agents to loiter outside the building where Governor Newsom was speaking today as yet another demonstration of how Donald Trump wastes the deployment of federal agents and federal troops for his own amusement and his own purely political stunts.
Who else sends ICE same time having a conversation like this? Someone who's weak. Someone who's broken. Someone whose weakness is masquerading as strength. The most unpopular president in modern history. An economy that's collapsing all around him. You saw the new wholesale prices going up almost a full percentage point today. Inflation is going up. Job creation is going down. He's trying to rewrite history, Smithsonian, censoring historical facts. And in the spirit of what Adam Schiff said, he's trying to put America in reverse on voting rights, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, on women's rights. He wants to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. That's what this is all about. It's about power, and I want to end on this. And we are about to give power back to the people.
Governor Newsom explained that there's a big difference in the way California will redistrict congressional maps of that state.
This is the difference between what's happening in Texas and what's happening here in California. We didn't receive a phone call from the President of the United States to then quietly go in the back room and start drawing maps and legislatively try to jam them through against the consent of the people. We're doing precisely the opposite. We're working through a very transparent, temporary, and public process. We're putting the maps on the ballot, and we're giving the power to the people. This will be the first redistricting that's ever done that. That's the difference. We tried to raise the standards, and these guys are not playing by any set of rules. So this time requires us to act anew, not just think anew.
And so this is what fighting Donald Trump looks like. Gavin Newsom and California Democrats have found a way to fight Donald Trump's attacks on democracy by using democracy against Donald Trump. And so the biggest state in the union, the richest state in the union, has finally been provoked to show Donald Trump just how much power that state has. Gavin Newsom is now leading California to the rescue of the United States of America, to the rescue of democracy in America. And today, Gavin Newsom showed millions of people who have been feeling powerless, millions of Californians who voted for the California candidate for president in the last election, that they still have power. The voters of California can feel left out in presidential elections. The candidates never bother to campaign in California because everyone knows how California is going to vote in a presidential election. California doesn't have the power to turn the election one way or another, the way much smaller states like neighboring Arizona do. Voting in California in a presidential election can be an exercise in dutiful civic frustration. Carrying out your civic duty knowing it won't make a difference when you're watching the election returns that night. Today, California Governor Gavin Newsom changed all that. Today, Gavin Newsom told California voters they hold in their hands the power to break Donald Trump's grip on every branch of the federal government, a power that tonight no other state has.
You have the power to stand up to Trump. You have the power to declare that you support a system that is not rigged. You have the power on November 4th to stand up for people that are being bullied. You have the power to stand up for people that are being intimidated. You have the power to stand up to the rule of law. We're giving the people of this state the power to save democracy, not just in California, but all across the United States of America. I hope we are waking up to this reality. Wake up, America. Wake up to what Donald Trump is doing. Wake up to his assaults. Wake up to the assault on institutions and knowledge and history. Wake up to his war on science and public health. In his war against the American people. This is a guy who lays claim to want to get a Nobel Prize, sitting there and bending his knee to Mr. Putin. You have the power to straighten this out.
In Texas, because the Texas House yesterday passed a new congressional map that could give Republicans 5 more seats after next year's midterm elections. The vote passed, of course, along party lines after more than 8 hours of debate. It ends a bitter redistricting fight in the House that included Democrats leaving Texas for 2 weeks. Republicans currently control now 25 of the 38 congressional districts there. Under the new map, President Trump would have carried 30 of 38 seats, all by more than 10 points. The Texas State Senate will likely pass the map this evening, and Governor Greg Abbott is expected to sign it into law by tomorrow. Meanwhile, former President Barack Obama shared his support for California's attempt to counter those mid-decade redistricting efforts by Republicans in the Lone Star State. At a fundraising event earlier this week, Obama said he had, quote, tremendous respect for Governor Newsom's proposal to redraw his state's congressional maps in response to the Texas effort. Obama went on to say that Democrats must respond effectively to Republican gerrymandering, even if it means breaking with traditional norms, and that Newsom's plan is a, quote, responsible approach. Yesterday, the California Supreme Court said it wouldn't prevent Democrats from moving forward with a plan to redraw their congressional districts. After last night's vote in Austin, Newsom posted on social media, quote, it's on, Texas. Joining us now, Washington correspondent for Spectrum News, Kevin Fry. Kevin, the margins are so incredibly tight in the House. That's why these stories matter so much. That plus the fact that the Texas redistricting effort is really only happening because the folks at the White House and in Washington said this would really be good for you to do. So what's the response then from lawmakers, including in the Texas delegation, who were not too fond of this effort either?
Right. I mean, and look, if you consider the fact that the margins in the House are essentially down to if you have like 4 or 5 votes, depending on who is absent and how many slots are empty. And so at the end of the day, this could be the whole ball game, is just this redistricting back and forth. And we seem to be entering and setting up this scenario where we could have really a spiral where various states are now going to basically take and jump at this opportunity, because Republicans are also being leaned on in places like Indiana and Missouri to also take advantage of this opportunity to try to redistrict. And quite frankly, we're seeing this potential of turning into a once in a decade, into every single cycle to try to squeeze out the latest advantage. And so you have seen when it comes to, for example, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries leaning in, saying, please, California, I respect this as an enlightened and forceful effort that they're considering out there, which could, if they go forward with this, and it seems like guns are blazing to try to do this in California as well, that would basically balance out things. But if you look at the grand map, it seems the GOP has more opportunities to try to move things in their direction in the grand scheme of things, and that could help them in what's expected to be a rather tight midterm.
And I think there's 2 pieces to this, too, right? California is saying that it is a tit for tat for what happened in Texas, but California is also going to be putting it to voters. And I had one California official on with me yesterday saying, well, I think that it's going to work, but if not, we'll know where the voters stand. And that's what's making us different in all of this, that we are asking the voters to decide. And then, of course, the other piece that Texas Republicans keep turning to is everyone gerrymanders. OK, the difference is how bold-faced the politics is on this right now.
It's not subtle at all.
Yeah, and it's not every 10 years. It's happening midstream.
Correct. And when it comes to essentially what could go on in California, there has already been some language that has been released where it seems that people are much more amenable to voting for this if it is seen as a direct response to Texas to try to balance out things, basically breaking democracy for the sake of saving democracy, as opposed to eliminating this independent redistricting commission. I mean, it's the old cliche the Democrats keep going back to, but they essentially say that they're fighting with one of their hands behind their back with these independent redistricting.
Yeah, because they are fighting to maintain norms that Republicans are keen to break, in this case on congressional maps. You know, one of the reasons why the Republican Party might want some pad in terms of their efforts to keep the House is A, because the margins are thin, and B, because of the big, beautiful bill that they passed earlier this year, where we've seen Republicans from Wyoming to New York really struggle in defense of that bill. And I actually think our home state of New York does provide an interesting micro look at what this defense looks like, because you've got everyone from Elise Stefanik to Mike Lawler having a tough time with it. I mean, talk about their differing responses.
Right. So let's start with Mike Lawler. He's in really, after he decided not to run for governor in the last couple of weeks, he is now in really one of the most competitive and closely watched congressional races across the country. This is right north of the 5 boroughs of New York City. And he has, just within the last couple days, started rolling out these various ads trying to redefine the one big beautiful bill, arguing that he's protecting Medicaid, for example, by instituting work requirements, and also touting something that's very, very niche to New York, which is the state and local tax deduction, among other things, trying to redefine an issue. But at the same time, the one big beautiful bill, as we've seen in polling, at least at this stage, and we've still got a year for the definitions to be really set in stone, is underwater. And so that is a difficulty for these Republicans to navigate. Stefanik was facing booing at an event in her own district. And some of this speaks to kind of her own evolution and also the dynamics of that part of the district. Plattsburgh is perhaps arguably one of the bluer segments of a red district, where she was facing lots of pushback from the public during this public event that she was speaking at. I don't know that I see that as necessarily a response directly to the one big beautiful bill. I see it more largely as people are tired of her in this district, particularly some of the more liberal folks who quite frankly see her as not standing by the principles she once stood for.
Democracy is on the ballot November 4th. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. With Prop 50, you can stop Republicans in their tracks. Prop 50 puts our elections back on a level playing field, preserves independent redistricting over the long term, and lets the people decide. Return your ballot today. Vote yes on 50.
We're back with David and Mark. So, Mark, that was President Obama's message to Californians. I played you Gavin Newsom's message about fundraising. But I want to put up a split screen. On Friday, the New York Times reported that the Justice Department will monitor elections in California and New Jersey. Times wrote it like this. The Trump administration said on Friday that the Justice Department will monitor polling sites in California and New Jersey ahead of the November 4th election, amid requests by Republican Party officials in those states. Although election monitoring by the Justice Department is not uncommon, it will likely heighten tensions as voters weigh in on some of the nation's most closely watched races. You know why I don't believe that the Republicans did that? Because Politico reported this, quote, Republicans appear to have all but abandoned their efforts to defeat a Democratic gerrymander of California's House districts 1 week before it goes before voters. As Democrats pummel the state with Yes on 50 advertising, the Republican side of the battle has gone quiet. Major GOP donors and party leaders have effectively vanished from the front lines. I mean, did they vanish from the front lines because Trump said we're calling in the military? Or, I mean, what do you make of those two pieces of reporting?
So, look, I agree with the first part of what the New York Times wrote, but not the second part. The second part is the throat clearing that we too oftentimes get, which is, well, but monitors are not that unusual, but critics are concerned. It's the same stuff we've gotten, frankly, about some of the indictments. This Department of Justice is not interested in protecting minority voting rights, which is the only reason why monitors are historically sent. Okay, so we need to stop saying, well, it's not unusual in this respect and it's unusual in that respect. This is totally a put-up by Donald Trump, who controls this Department of Justice. Remember, Donald Trump has said he can control the Department of Justice. Pam Bondi, who is the Attorney General, is a sycophant. All of the loyalists of Donald Trump run the place. And as they say, the people who invited them in were not the citizen groups, were not the minority communities, but were the Republican Party. So we need to understand that there is nothing normal about this. This is just dangerous. And here is why they're doing it, for two reasons. Number one, because Donald Trump is a vain man with a very fragile ego. And he's going to need to explain why it is that California successfully passed this ballot initiative and why it is that his buddy in New Jersey lost to Mikey Sherrill. And so if you notice, they're not sending people into Virginia. That's a race in which a Republican has the governorship, and the Republican candidate for governor has no chance of winning. So number one, they're being sent in so that he can lie and lie and lie, and then lie some more about what happened in the election. As sure as I sit here on Wednesday and Thursday of next week, you and I will be talking, and you can play the tape back, that he is claiming there was widespread fraud in California and widespread fraud in New Jersey. And the fact that these monitors are on the ground, they will give some credence in some quarters, because he'll be able to say, well, we had monitors on the ground. This is what they said, whether that's what they said or not. The second reason he has the monitors on the ground is to normalize this while he tests the fence to find vulnerabilities in 2025 for the big show in 2026.
David, I'm wrapping this around your thought about failure of imagination. I mean, what if this is what we have to imagine, that the presence of federal agents and troops that Trump keeps talking about deploying, and Steve Bannon's been talking about for months now, that is the play, and that normalizing them there ostensibly around immigration raids is about a range of projects and efforts, all serving sort of this MAGA movement by normalizing troops in the streets.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the question to ask, and I think we see it happening already. There's a very specific federal law that says that you cannot send federal law enforcement or armed troops to polling places. But if you put people in the streets of cities, if you put the armed forces or the National Guard or ICE in the streets of cities now, well ahead of elections, then it's not at the polling places, it's not because of the elections. You get people used to it. If you put monitors out, you get people used to it. So I think it is part of a long-running plan. And when Mark says the crisis is not, we're not on the brink of a crisis, the crisis is happening now, I think this is a good example of what that looks like. These things are already happening. This isn't a hypothetical that happens in 2026 or happens in, September, October, or November of 2026. It's something that's already going on.
Mark, take me inside the state-by-state effort. We've talked about California, but I saw that Maryland is going to sit this one out. What's going on there?
Yeah, look, I hope the Democrats in Maryland reconsider this. We've heard from one legislative leader in Maryland who said that they're going to sit it out. But honestly, there's no reason for Maryland to sit it out. There is no reason why Maryland cannot redraw its maps and do what is necessary to protect democracy. So on a state-by-state basis, the way to think about this is Republicans have gerrymandered or further gerrymandered maps in Texas, in Missouri, and in North Carolina. Some of the most grotesque extreme gerrymanders became even worse. And all three of those states got sued almost immediately by me and my law firm, and in some cases by others. And so those cases are playing themselves out. In the meantime, you have California about on the precipice of passing a new map that will add 5 Democratic seats. Virginia is also in the process of doing that. Earlier today, the legislature took the first big step there. Republicans went to court to try to block it, and they failed this morning. I'm also proud of my law firm's role there in preventing Republicans from stopping that process from moving forward. And now we move to kind of the next level. We see what do Republicans do in Ohio and Florida and Kansas and Indiana and Nebraska and New Hampshire. And then what do Democrats do in the states that they control? What happens in Washington and Oregon and Colorado and Illinois and Maryland? You know, I have been saying for months that Democrats need to, in every one of these states, look at what tools are available to them and take it seriously. You know, everyone was saying that it was impossible to do anything in Virginia, and now Virginia found a way to do something. People said it was impossible to do something in California, and Gavin Newsom found a way. People said it was impossible to do something in New York, and then guess what? My law firm, we sued New York. And now all of a sudden everyone is saying, well, maybe there is something that can be done in New York via litigation that we brought to vindicate the right of minority voters. So I think we just need more imagination, to use the word of the day, and creativity and urgency to this.
This is the first big electoral test of the second Trump administration, and it is upon us. It's here. Voters are lining up today from coast to coast, like at this polling location in New York City, where voters will choose their next mayor. The contests are set to serve as a bit of a barometer for the national mood 9 months into an administration like none before it, one that has pursued an agenda that wide swaths of the American people say they did not sign up for, even people who voted for Donald Trump. Things like sweeping tariffs, to massive and brutal deportations, to the political prosecutions of Donald Trump's perceived opponents and critics. Of course, every vote, every ballot in every state is of vital importance. But those cast in the state of California today on what has been called Proposition 50 stand to be felt from coast to coast, from that state's Sugarloaf Island in the west across the heartland to the easternmost lighthouse in Maine. It's because that ballot measure, if approved, would initiate a redistricting in California, a redrawing of the maps that would help Democrats make up ground that Republicans have seized. It could help Democrats flip as many as 5 U.S. House seats ahead of next year's midterm elections. It is the response to what Republicans, at the behest of Donald Trump, started in Texas earlier this year. But evidently, our MSNBC colleagues there on the ground in California today aren't the only ones with an eye on the polling locations. Because of the 6 counties nationwide to which Donald Trump's Department of Justice sent so-called election monitors, 5 of them are in the state of California. Go figure. Donald Trump today on social media cast doubt on the legitimacy of voting in California today, suggesting without a scrap of evidence or explanation that it's all a, quote, giant scam, that voting there is, quote, rigged. We've heard that before. He suggested that the situation was, quote, under very serious legal and criminal review. It has been and will continue to be a national story. A story about democracy, a story about the use of the Department of Justice, a story about a repeat of a lie told rather famously and violently in 2020 when Donald Trump lost. It's also something that California's Governor Gavin Newsom talked about. He socialized to citizens of the country and his state ahead of Election Day.
But let's be honest, why are we all here? We're here because Donald Trump is an historic president. He's an historically unpopular president. We're here because Trump, even Trump understands that. He didn't expect you to show up. He didn't expect any of this to happen. He thought maybe we'd have a candlelight vigil, maybe we would hold hands, maybe we could all come together and, like, you know, do an op-ed in the LA Times and, you know, just say what it could have, should have done something. They never expected this. They never expected all of you. They never expected this show of unity and support and recognition. And look, it's not about Trump, this election. At the end of the day, it's about the future of our country.
Democracy on the ballot, the future of our country on the ballot. This election day is where we start the hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. With me at the desk, MSNBC senior contributing editor Michelle Norris is here, and Democratic strategist and professor at Columbia University, MSNBC political analyst Basil Smikle is here. Also joining us, host of the Bulwark podcast, MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller is here. But I want to start with our colleagues out in the field for us today. MSNBC's Alicia Menendez is in Clifton, New Jersey, following that gubernatorial race there. And MSNBC senior national and political correspondent Jacob Soboroff is in Sacramento, California, where the fight for democracy, as we just said, is on the ballot. Jacob, I want to start with you. And just the bookends that I want you to take me through are the announcement, which sort of came in the, I won't even say dust. I think the ICE raids are ongoing, and they were very much ongoing at the time. But the announcement of Prop 50 to the point where Gavin Newsom says, I have enough money, just go out and vote. Take me through this historic campaign.
Let me just start by saying, Nicole, happy Tuesday after the first Monday in November. This is a happy day, and I'm so happy to be here with you and join you for yet another election day. And it's going to be an extraordinary night here as we watch play out. Literally, I think that it is not an exaggeration to say, we always say it's the front lines of democracy, but this is exactly what this election is about. And you know, California historically, and I should tell you where I am. I'm in Sacramento. This is the California Museum. This is one of many polling places. And let me quickly just give you a little look at what's happening in here, and then I'll talk to you, and then I want to show you outside, because there are a lot of people here, whether or not people expected people to show up and vote in person, including the President of the United States. So come take a look at this real quick. This is the vote in person situation here, and people have been trickling in here at a steady state all day long. And then let me show you over here, because of course we have vote by mail. I voted by mail today. Excuse me, everybody gets a vote by mail ballot, and you have the opportunity to bring it in person. This is the vote by mail box. So people are coming in, they're dropping off their vote by mail ballots if they don't want to vote in person. And that's the way that this process is going. There is only one question on the ballot in Los Angeles County, where I voted this morning, here in Sacramento County, and that is whether or not you want to redraw the congressional district lines here in the state of California to potentially swing 5 districts in the direction of the Democrats in response to what Governor Gavin Newsom says is the partisan gerrymandering and redistricting happening all around this country. And California historically has been a place, let me show you the lines while we talk. California has historically been a place where independent redistricting was important. The former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, made it a huge priority of his tenure inside this government. And check this out, Nicole, as we come outside. There are people here. There are a lot of people here. And Donald Trump was saying that this is going to be a vote by mail ballot. Let's actually walk the line. I'll talk to you as I go. How are you guys? How are you doing?
Oh my God.
Wait, hold on. What's up?
Hi, I'm so excited to vote. It's giving election day.
It's giving election day?
It's giving election day.
Prop 50, there's only one item on the ballot. What is it? Why are you here? What's the motivating factor?
No, it's giving yes on Prop 50. It's giving hot people vote yes on Prop 50.
And
are
why?
You voting yes on Prop 50?
I'm on the air. I can't tell you what I'm voting about, but why are you here? Why'd you decide to come out today?
I'm voting to save democracy. I'm voting for Prop 50. Vote yes.
What's your name?
Carlos.
Carlos Jacob. Nice to meet you. And your name?
Zen.
Zen. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So, Nicole, let's walk. I'm going to show you. But that's what this is about. This is about democracy. And so everything that was happening in California, this holy grail of California politics, which is the Independent Redistricting Commission, Gavin Newsom decided that it was time to counterpunch first Texas and now other states, as Donald Trump has talked about what he wants to do in this country. And when you watch look at this, check this out. I mean, they're still here. They keep going. Wow. When you watch the commercials, when you watch the advertisements that are on the air here in California, and I see them almost every day, it's not just about the redrawing, obviously, of the congressional district lines. You are seeing videos of the ICE raids. You are seeing other consequential policies of the Trump administration, because it is about ultimately the direction that this country is going to take. And if even my son, 9 years old, has been watching, and I asked him, I said, do you understand when you see the commercials online or on YouTube or on television? He said, it's about making sure we have fair and equal representation representation. And that message, I think, has come through very clearly here. And so you're right. Gavin Newsom has said, I don't need any more money. We have raised so much money. We are outraised by orders of magnitude, the Republicans, where he feels like they're in a good position tonight. And that's why we're here in Sacramento, because I think ultimately we may see him tonight. I'm going to try to find some time with him. But look, it goes on and on. Anybody else want to just say why they're in line today? We're live on MSNBC. What's up? How are you? What's your name?
My name is Darren. It's nice to meet you. I'm here to vote.
And why'd you come out to vote for Prop 50 if we're against?
I came to vote because I believe that our democracy is at stake right now based on what's been happening in Texas and other states.
So you're watching that closely. This is not your election. I mean, normally, people don't show up for this. This is a line that wraps around the block here in the downtown Sacramento area in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are really scared right now, and I think that's a big motivator for me and the people I know around me. So.
I think that's a hard thing to share, especially impromptu on national television, so I appreciate you doing it. Tell me your name again?
Darren.
Darren, nice to meet you.
Nice
Thanks.
to meet you.
So, Nicole, we just met a couple people, and I'm sure we'll be meeting a lot more, but they're out here because they believe, as we said, this is the front line of democracy in the United States of America this evening.
I am such a sap. Like, voters just get to me like a rom-com gets to a normal person my age. Let me ask you this. Trump is posting about the election. He's posting lies about this election being rigged. That is, at this point, to be expected. But his lies have now a pattern of putting a couple things into motion. One, violence, and two, a lack of faith in the results. He's also dispatched election monitors. Just tell me how the governor is dealing with both.
Well, I think that the counterpunch, the counter messages show up. And if the margin is big enough, there is no question. It's the same playbook, different day, different election. By the way, keep going. I don't mean to stand in your way. I remember talking to you and the team at the desk on the night of the election in 2024. I was in Philadelphia at the Ballot Processing Center. And up until the moment it was clear that he won in Pennsylvania, he was challenging the results of the election in Pennsylvania itself and in Philadelphia itself. And so I think that that's sort of the baseline expectation right now. We read the social media messages that he put out. We know that there are folks from the Department of Justice, the Civil Rights Division, ironically, of all divisions, on the ground here, looking into the elections here. But the elections have always been safe, secure, fair, and accurate here. If the biggest criticism in California is that they count the votes slowly and give a long certification process, let me remind everybody, if the results aren't in immediately tonight, that is because they do that to ensure the safety and the fairness and the accuracy of the ballot counting result here. And then the Secretary of State will certify the election. But that's how it's supposed to go. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Here's Gavin Newsom in California.
A party that is in its ascendancy, a party that's on its toes, no longer on its heels, from coast to coast, sea to shining sea. But it was not just a victory tonight for the Democratic Party. It was a victory for the United States of America, for the people of this country and the principles that our founding fathers lived and died for. And so we're proud. We're proud here in California to be part of this narrative this evening. We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic president. Donald Trump is an historic president. He is the most historically unpopular president in modern history. In every critical category, Donald Trump is underwater. He promised to make us healthier. He promised to make us wealthier. We're sicker and poorer. And he fundamentally understands that. Why else would he call Greg Abbott saying he's entitled to 5 seats? Why else is he trying to rig the midterm elections before one single vote is even cast? He understands his position at this moment in the United States of America. One thing he never counted on, though, was the state of California. Instead of agonizing over the state of our nation, we organized in an unprecedented way in a 90-day sprint
People from all over the United States of America contributed their voices and their support for this initiative. We stood tall and we stood firm in response to Donald Trump's recklessness. And tonight, after poking the bear, this bear roared with an unprecedented turnout in a special election with an extraordinary result. None of us, however, are naive. This is a pattern. This is a practice. Donald Trump's efforts to rig the midterm election continue to this day, and I'll reinforce that in just a moment. You're seeing him take action all across this country, not just in Texas. You saw what they were successfully able to do in Missouri, what they did in North Carolina, what they're trying to do in Indiana, and inevitably in Florida. They are not screwing around. In June of this year, we saw 4,000 National Guard federalized in the state of California. We saw 700 active duty Marines not sent overseas, but sent to the second largest city in the United States of America to militarize our streets. We said in June this was a preview of things to come. What more evidence do you need than what happened in Washington, D.C., what's happening up in Portland, cities like Chicago? When we kicked off this campaign just 90 or so days ago in Little Tokyo, in Southern California, in L.A., at the Democracy Center, Donald Trump sent Greg Bovino. He sent his private police force that increasingly appears to have taken an oath of office to Donald Trump, not to the Constitution of the United States. He sent them to our kickoff rally to chill free expression, to chill free speech, to intimidate people from participating. Just today, in Los Angeles, Donald Trump called up the Border Patrol, sent them to Dodger Stadium, and threw a fastball at free speech, right at the head, free expression, to suppress the vote in America's second largest city. Just did that today. People in tactical gears sent out to intimidate a community that is already on edge. But you see, as we speak, people are still in line. People waiting up 3 hours to cast their vote, to send a message to Donald Trump. No crowns, no thrones, no kings. That's what this victory represents. It's a victory for the people of the state of California and the United States of America. And this is a victory that's punctuated with a sober reminder that it's not just the actions that Donald Trump has taken to federalize our guard, to begin the process of militarizing American cities, to intimidate free expression and speech by utilizing ICE and Border Patrol in America's cities. But he also announced today, right when polls were opening, that this election was rigged. That this election was rigged. Of course, those are familiar words. It's exactly what Donald Trump said after January 6th, that day of love, where he tried to light democracy on fire. He tried to wreck this country, and he called in to the Secretary of State in Georgia, calling up for 11,000, 12,000 votes, just like he called Greg Abbott, saying he's entitled to those 5 seats. He said this election was rigged, and he's moving to look for criminal prosecution and investigations at the Department of Justice. He is not screwing around. So tonight, I'm proud, but I'm very mindful and sober of the moment we are living in. Donald Trump does not believe in fair and free elections, period and full stop. This is not complicated, and it's self-evident to anyone paying attention. You start to stack up all of these actions that continue to this moment and will continue in moments to come. If you think I'm exaggerating, consider his announcement just a few weeks ago to send rapid response teams all across the United States, in all 50 states, tens of thousands of members of the military prepared for urban deployment. A preview of things to come. But back to this state. Our state of mind was resolute. Our state of mind was resolved to stand firm and to stand tall, to not be intimidated, to not be humiliated, to not fall prey to cynicism, to not fall prey to fear and the anxiety of someone that believes in only one shock and awe, to intimidate and exhaust us. But we're seeing all across this country, 7 million people strong, standing up, not just for themselves, but for each other and for these enduring and historic principles of our founding fathers. And I'll end on that. Next year is the 250th anniversary of the best of Roman Republic, the best of Greek democracy. This fundamental notion of a system of checks and balances, of popular sovereignty, the rule of law. Mr. President, the rule of law, not the rule of dawn. And I hope it's dawning on people, the sobriety of this moment, what's at stake. Tonight, as I said, is an extraordinary moment for our party, but again, it's an extraordinary moment affirming those principles. Our founding fathers did not live and die to see the kind of vandalism to this republic and our democracy that Donald Trump is trying to perpetuate. And so my call tonight, in the spirit of Whitman, who talked about the powerful play, goes on. We all must contribute a verse. And so we need the state of Virginia. We need the state of Maryland. We need our friends in New York and Illinois and Colorado. We need to see other states with the remarkable leaders that have been doing remarkable things meet this moment head on as well, to recognize what we're up against in 2026. And let me make this crystal clear. We can de facto end Donald Trump's presidency as we know it the minute Speaker Jeffries gets sworn in as Speaker of the House of Representatives. It is all on the line, a bright line in 2026. And so I want to thank everybody that stood up, not just for our democracy, but stood up for those that have feel bullied and intimidated, stood up for this notion of co-equal branches of government and a system of checks and balances. And I want to thank my wife, who reminds me every single day that this is about those that feel alone, those that feel isolated, those that feel an anxiety and a stress that they never could have imagined in their lives. This was about saying to them, we have your back, we see you, you matter, we care. And I'll just say this, I'm confident as we move forward into 2026 in this country, the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
What's the lesson for other Democrats from tonight?